Oh, my mind was blown with this one. Today's conversation is with Lisa Woodruff. Number one, she is here in Cincinnati, Ohio, right around the block from me. Lisa is the co-founder and CEO of Organize 365, host of the Organize 365 podcast. She's an author, a researcher, and a leading voice on organization, executive function, household management, and the invisible work of adult life. The episode here is about something deeper than clutter. It's about capacity. The paper on the counter, the appointment in your head, the bills, forms, meals, the laundry, the family calendar, the constant remembering. For many people, and especially women, home just does not require more work. It requires management. And much of that management is invisible. And Lisa gives language to that invisible load and explains why organization is not a personality trait or a moral failure. It's a skill, a system, a way to externalize what your brain has been trying to carry alone. We talk about ADHD, executive function, the Sunday basket, paper systems, household management, productivity, self-care, midlife reinvention, and why getting organized is ultimately about creating enough time and capacity to live the life you're here to live. Before we begin, just two quick things. Subscribe here to the Personal Success Podcast so you don't miss any future conversations on success, leadership, fulfillment, self-trust, and the practical systems that help us live with more clarity. And second, if leadership or life has started to feel heavier than it should, download the 7 Quiet Signals at ryanwantslifecoaching.com/quiet signals. This is a private recognition guide for noticing subtle signs that internal friction may be costing you more energy than it should. Now, here's my conversation with Lisa Woodruff. Lisa Woodruff, welcome to the show. Thanks for joining us today.
Yeah, so happy to be here. Thanks for having me.
Who is Lisa Woodruff and what is her mission?
Yeah, who is Lisa Woodruff? You know, when you ask a woman who she is, she is so many things, and she's been so many things over her lifetime. So I always start by saying how old I am. I'm 54, live in Cincinnati, was raised in the Akron-Cleveland area, but I've lived here 30 years. And so I was someone who wanted to get married and have kids. Like that was my whole goal as a child. I babysat, went to school, got a teaching degree, did find my husband, got my MRS degree at Miami University. We got married, wasn't able to get pregnant, but did adopt 2 children later. And so I was able to be a stay-at-home mom for a decade, which was my lifetime goal. Then those kids were in middle school and I was like, I need to go back to work. Like I need to use my brain. I need to do some of these things. The kids aren't even home during the day. And I really didn't have any dreams for myself after that. Like I had accomplished all the dreams I'd ever had. However, as I was turning 40, I realized that life and #adulting was much harder than I ever realized it would be. My parents had gotten divorced. My dad had gotten sick. He passed away. My sister and I had to settle the estate and sell our family home. And so life was just a lot heavier in my late 30s than I thought it would be. And I had to figure out well, if the women in my household live until even to their what am I going to do for the next 40, 50, 60 years? I can't live a reactive life. So I started Organize 365 the year that I turned 40. It has evolved and grown into many things because I didn't know how I'd monetize it when I started it. But you asked what my mission is or what I do. In 2017, I realized the mission of Organize 365 was we are an organization company that teaches you the skill of organizing, but it's not an end to learn how to get organized. We do that because we want to free women's time and their capacity to do what they're uniquely gifted and created to do. So I was uniquely gifted and created to be a stay-at-home mom for a decade. But now, in each subsequent decade, what am I uniquely gifted and created to do, both for my family and my community and ultimately for the world? That continues to evolve and change, and I need time and capacity in order to do that. So if your home is organized, then you free up time and capacity. If you don't get your home organized, for women especially, that's always a burden, kind of weighs them down, and they'll go out and do other things that they're uniquely gifted and created to do, but they'll feel that it's very heavy and that they don't really have full permission, and also they don't feel really fully present everywhere they are because they don't have things that are complete at home.
Yeah. Well, first of all, what a beautiful mission. Second of all, I have to say that number one, we're both in Cincinnati, but what's interesting is I grew up in the Akron-Cleveland area too.
In Bath, and I went to St. Vincent St. Mary High School.
Wow. Okay.
Yeah.
What a small world, what a small world. How did you end up in Cincinnati?
So I went to Miami University and I met my husband while I was there, and he was living in Cincinnati.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's a similar thing. I came down to Cincinnati as a bachelor, and now I have a house and kids, and partner, and life happens like that. So
yeah.
But Lisa, you shared so many, your mission, obviously you're passionate about it by the way that you're just talking about it. And I have to, I always like to start about like where I sort of relate to this. And one of the things I know that you have written a book about is ADHD. And maybe this is, why is it? So I manage ADHD as well. Why is it that I can tell by the way that you're talking that you have ADHD?
Okay, so this is so great. I was recently diagnosed with ADHD. As a teacher, I was the intervention specialist that helped kids who had ADHD be successful. And my kids eventually were diagnosed with ADHD as well. So now I'm getting a PhD and I understand executive function, which is where ADHD shows up as a deficit. I think that most entrepreneurs have ADHD. I was originally diagnosed with dyslexia, which I also think I have. And I don't, how we diagnose things as a psychologist over time changes every 4 to 5 years. So this is really frustrating to me as a parent. So we're probably close to the same. Well, no, we probably aren't close to the same age, but I'm 54. So how things were diagnosed, how ADHD was diagnosed when I was a child, when my kids were children, when now my grandchild is a child, is different. How autism has been diagnosed and labeled over time is different. And all of these are how our brain functions and processes and thinks about things, and how our executive function works. So executive function is the prefrontal cortex of your brain. Sorry, I'm getting way too nerdy. Just tell me if I get too nerdy.
You're so in my wheelhouse.
Tell me if
I'm like,
I get too nerdy. Okay.
Please, go on.
So I've studied this executive function, and this is why I'm getting my PhD. I'm such a nut. I'm getting a PhD because I want to do research, and I don't want to pay a PhD to be on staff because I want to be in control of the research. I don't need it for any real reason. So anyway, I'm going to do executive function research. There are 8 different executive functions. The one that is the most researched is working memory. So working memory is being able to attend to a task. Here you go. You go to buy something on your phone, and you need a passcode. So now you have to go over to your email to retrieve the passcode and come back and put the passcode in to buy the thing, right? That's working memory, to be able to do these multiple things and hold them all together. Now, prospective memory is a different kind of memory. It's the interruptive memory. The text dings while you're in the process of this, and it's the kids' school. Now, do you stop buying the thing to go check out the kids' school? Of course you do. You have to. So you go and you check out, they're just saying this could be pajama day on Friday. This is not information I needed to know. Now you have to remember what you were doing, because the interruptive task became the working memory task. And so your working memory, buying the thing, now became a delayed task that you have to now remember to go back and do. That's called prospective memory. That's what my dissertation is on.
Okay. Yeah.
This is only one part of executive function. Ryan, we are all freaking ADHD. There is nobody that has perfect executive function. So then behind that are all these other things that your executive function does. Organization is literally an executive function. Planning is an executive function. So when you are planning, you are using your executive function to project something you're going to do in the future. You cannot plan when you are using your working memory for something. It's literally impossible. Planning is the executive function that's going to be in the very back of the line of the executive function line. And until you have time and space to plan, it will not come to the front and actually help you. So what I think happens in ADHD is that we are so busy and distracted that we're constantly using our working memory and dealing with all the perspective memory that comes in and out. And we're in this task switching state between perspective and working memory that we never take the time to get through all of the executive functions and end up in planning, which needs complete open time. No distractions, no interruptions, focus time on planning. And there are all these other ones in the middle. Getting started is an executive function. Staying on task is an executive function. Switching from one task to the other is an executive function. And all of these have different strengths. So when you take an executive function test, and the one I like is the brief A, it's a paid test, there are emotional regulations and there are cognitive regulations. Most of what I specialize in are cognitive. I am not a clinical psychologist, by the way, just a regular old being able to do research psychologist.
Yeah.
The emotional ones are like the impulsivity. These are what you normally see in ADHD boys. They run into the street. That's impulsivity. We are going to give you a drug to stop that so you don't run into the street.
Yeah.
But the cognitive deficits are the ones that are harder to see in action, which are like being able to switch from one task to the other, the initiative being able to get started, to be able to organize your materials, both at school and at home. And the problem for women with ADHD is we are usually at home. If you're in a workplace, if you're in a school, you have a lot of supports. You have structural supports in the way the classroom is set up, in colleagues, in other people doing the functions. But at home, you're responsible for all of the functions. There is no structure. You have to literally create the structure from scratch. So that's what we've done in Organize 365. We created the structure that you can build on, like school supplies for running your household.
Yeah. So I just want to thank you. You literally gave words to my experience here.
Yeah.
Because I think even now, because I'm 45.
Okay.
Soon to be 46. And then I was 40 years old. I went to the doctor. I was like, I think I have low testosterone. I can't get anything done. And they're like, okay. And then she's like, I'll do this test, but if it comes back fine, go see a psychiatrist. So I did that and they're like, oh yeah, this is, so I was 40 about. And so I think that is, you just gave me words to that, because there is, I definitely know that I can't sort of hold, it seems like, less things in my working memory, right? There is sort of that, I don't want to call it a deficiency, but where I sort of have always thrived was energy and sort of, being, getting everybody motivated and moving towards a certain task and things like that. But the planning piece is really right now where I've found that, okay, I got to get up at 5:30 in the morning, have an hour where I don't even really structure the time. It's like, what am I doing today? Planning. So anyway,
Can I add to that?
Please, yeah.
Okay. So another reason why I got my PhD, because I don't know, here's what I've learned as an entrepreneur. No one can stop you. As long as your spouse is on board, like, game on. So I talked to the leading ADHD researcher at Cincinnati Children's about doing research with him about 5 years ago. And in Cincinnati, Ohio, we have amazing ADHD research that is done for children, and so many scientific studies where they'll put kids for 12 weeks in a course about how, if we support you with study skills and you have medication or don't have medication, how does it impact a child with ADHD? And so I reached out to this researcher and I said, this is amazing. Where are we doing this with the adults who have ADHD? And he said, we are not. Period. End of story. And he said, and you can't have my money. I did a little research on my own and I tracked every single researcher that gets money for their research for ADHD. They all go back to North Carolina universities, Duke and the ones right around there. It's interesting. They could be all over the world, but they did some kind of a stint down there. Anyways, all of these researchers who are working in ADHD, at the child level, there are a handful, like the one in Cincinnati, that are doing alternative therapies in addition to medication. When you get to adults, it's medication only. So if you're diagnosed with ADHD as an adult, the solution is medication. There is no environmental or any other, like as a teacher, we would provide all these additional supports for children who have ADHD. There's none of that for adults, period, that has scientifically been tested at all. And also there is none in the pipeline. So one of my employees said about 8 years ago, she said, oh, Lisa, wouldn't it be hilarious if we found out you have ADHD? I said, go on. She said, and we found out that the Sunday basket that you created actually externalizes your executive function. And that's why you are so successful. And that is why I'm getting my PhD, is to test that now, to go ahead and put people who have not used the Sunday basket, whether or not they have an official ADHD diagnosis, do the executive function testing, intervene with the Sunday basket, and see if their executive function improves. Because I know as an educator, we can change our brain. Medical science does not have that same view. They see a deficiency, they give you a drug, done. They're not trying to get you better executive function. And I can give you one additional example. I'm in my class, my cognitive psychology class, and I said to my professor, I said, okay, so if we externalize our executive function, then we can improve our working memory over a period of time. She goes, no, that's not possible. That's not what science says. I'm like, well, that may be interesting, but I have a customer who bought the Sunday basket for herself and her mother started using the Sunday basket. And while she was using the Sunday basket, she got the Alzheimer's diagnosis, but she improved her ability to run her own household through the Sunday basket for 9 months before she declined again. And the psychologist said, that's not possible. We haven't seen it in science. And I said, well, you will. Because I'm going to do the study. And so when we say science and what they've studied in science, I mean, they could tell you about the mating of the fruit fly and the circadian rhythm of whatever gnat somewhere. They're not studying in science the things that we need for our everyday living. How do we not only medicate, because I know medication works, but what else can we do to improve our executive function? Because no one has perfect executive function. ADHD is when your executive function is not functioning to the ability that it impacts your daily living. And so there needs to be some kind of intervention. But does that intervention, like there are a lot of different possibilities of intervention. We're only looking at one right now, which is medication.
Yeah. You said another phrase there that blew my mind, Lisa, and that is externalizing executive function.
Yes.
You describe what I'm known for in my life. I never have put that into place for. But I looked up what you did with this Sunday basket. Walk us through what that is, because I think to someone who that's going to resonate with, I mean, I looked at it and was like, this is amazing and similar to sort of systems I've created. But please tell us about the Sunday basket.
Yes, similar to some systems you've created. Every single one of us must manufacture from scratch some kind of system to run our life on. Period. End of story. When you're in school, they're like, okay, we'll bring the yellow folder to math class because the teacher is like, I'm the yellow folder lady. And you bring your yellow folder, and then you go to science. He's like, I'm the green folder guy. And you bring your green folder. Like, we set up structures in schools. So from a teacher perspective, where is that structure in our adult life? That is what the Sunday basket is. So the Sunday basket, everything I sell is a lifetime membership. So you're always in it for a lifetime. It has a physical component because I'm a teacher. I want you to have the right school supplies or office supplies. It has a course. And then we have a co-working time where we like kind of keep you on track. So the Sunday basket is a physical box that sits on your kitchen counter, and it has colored slash pockets in it. Just think of it as school folders. Okay. And each of those colors represents a subject you have in adulthood. So finances, your family, running your household, your personal objectives. Those are the 4 colors. And then you have a rainbow set that you do every week. Like you have to pay your bills, you have to plan for your errands, you have to do all those things. So I've taken adult life and I've made it kind of like a course and subjects that you have to do in your adult life. And so you put all of your ideas and your to-do lists and your mail and things you need to remember in this box. And then you have a planning time on Sunday where you're not worried about the distractions. You're not trying to do other things. You're just planning for your week, kind of like your homework for your adulting life. And you go through the Sunday basket in a process. And the externalizing the executive function, that's kind of my own term. When you write things down by hand, science will show in every single study, when you write something down by hand with a pen or a pencil, you will put it deeper into your memory. So it won't float up there in the working memory. It'll go deeper and you'll remember it longer. Whereas if you type on a computer, even if you write with a stylus on an iPad, it's not the same as writing with paper on pen. So when you write yourself a note and you put it in the Sunday basket to wait until Sunday, number one, it will leave your working memory, which will give you more cognitive capacity because we all have limited capacity. And number 2, you will actually remember it more because it's already been written down, even though you're not looking at it anymore.
Yeah. You know, I'm having trouble. You've helped me a lot so far to sort of put words to my own experience. I love to organize things. Like, it's funny. I have a record collection. I like to alphabetize it. But Lisa, when it comes to keeping it organized, the maintenance part of it, I'm terrible at it. And it sort of drives me crazy. And then it's doubly worse with my partner, for example, is sort of, you know, I could tell that she's frustrated with things. And she's like, hey, I thought you were an organized person. What's happening here? You know, like some days you are, some days you aren't. What's going on there?
Okay, so I don't know. I can't speak as a doctor about that. But what I've learned in my own experience about that is that I like the project. I like the project of setting up the organizational system, but I do not like to do the administration or the maintenance. Yeah. So whenever I can get a project done, I'm really good at getting the project done. And then the maintenance is just way too boring for me. It's not stimulating. It's not a new thing. Yeah. So the number one hire when I became a business owner was I hired somebody to clean my house. And then the second one was an executive assistant who reached out to you because I was going to be 5 minutes late to this appointment. Like I will create the system, but I want somebody else to maintain the system because creating the system is fun and it's energetic. It has a lot of energy to it and it's creating something out of nothing. I'm really good at that. I am not good at maintaining things. So funny. I stink at cooking. So I'm trying not to have a lot of carbs. So I'm eating eggs in the morning and I set the timer this morning, or I turned on the oven to make the eggs while I'm getting my grandchild ready for school. And then he goes, the timer beeped. And I was like, I'm making eggs. So I put the eggs in. I'm getting them all dressed. We're getting ready to leave. And then all of a sudden the timer's beeping again. I'm like, why is the timer beeping? My eggs are ready. So I pulled my eggs out. We get ready to leave. I realized I forgot to turn the oven off. Like I stink at normal household things, like things that are repetitive that you do all the time. Like if the oven is ever left on, it is always me every single time because I forgot I was cooking every time. Yeah. Terrible at it.
There's this joke I used to tell about myself where I would be watching a movie and then the next thing I know, I'd be mowing the lawn. I'm like, what was I? I was doing something. Right. And then I'd be like, oh, I have to finish watching that movie. And it sounds silly. It's like, I'll come back. And then I'm sitting there and I look out the window. The lawnmower is in the middle of the yard. I'm like, you're an adult. Hopefully no one's paying too much close of attention, you know? But it reminded me of your story there, Lisa. But you spent years helping people get organized. And beneath the surface, in your experience, what do people actually believe organization is going to give them finally?
Yeah, it's interesting. I think I'll speak for women because I don't know as much for men, but I'll speak for the women that I've worked with and myself personally is we're looking for two things when we want to get our house organized. One, we want it to look organized. We're looking for an aesthetic, not a feeling. An organization is a feeling. And the second thing that I was looking for, and I found other women in Cincinnati were also looking for, was a permission slip. Like if we could get all of our chores done, we would have permission to go out and do something else like a child. And we're not children and we don't need somebody to give us a permission slip. Often we are personally looking for that gold star and that A+. Like I have all of my housework done. I've done all of my obligations. All of my duties are done. So now it's okay for me to take some of the time, energy, and financial resources of the family for something I want to do, whether it's for work or for pleasure or whatever. And this is not just if you have children or not, although I think it's more prevalent when you have children. Like when you have children, it's just, you're not going to sleep. You're not going to, none of your money is your own when your kids are little. But as they start to get bigger, like when I was in my 40s and the kids are in middle school and we're still enrolling them in like T-ball, like my kids are adults. None of them are professional pianists or soccer players or any of the things that we spent money on, right? And we spent thousands and thousands of dollars on that. And that was investing in them and their future and well-roundedness, blah, 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 blah. But if a woman wants to take less than $200 and buy a Sunday basket, she'll hem and she'll haw and she'll think about it. She'll run it by her spouse. She'll save up birthday money in order to make this investment because that's taking money away from the family or the children or the household. And we are really reticent to invest in ourselves, in our professional development as we get older. And it's great because we're sacrificial and we are caretakers and we are giving, but it's not great because we also need to be growing and thriving in order to give. So the theme of my new book, Escaping Quicksand, is that you must invest in yourself so that you can invest in others. You must care for yourself so that you can care for others. Like we have to put ourselves on the to-do list, especially in midlife. Women kind of wake up and they go, wait a minute, when was the last time I took a class just because I wanted to take a class? When was the last time I went out and did something just because it would benefit me, not benefit everyone around me?
You know, this really resonates. I work, I work as a coach with people, and I had a woman who I was working with, and essentially what we were doing in her work, what it came down to was that she was at a point in her life where she didn't want to progress in her career further. She wanted it to be okay for her to explore her hobbies and things like that. And really, it was just about how do we give her permission to do so?
Yep.
What is, and I think for the men who are listening, really, who are really truly interested in supporting people, supporting their partners, and others. And what is it that men can do to sort of support and sort of encourage women to sort of be able to get that permission, be able to ask for it, do what they need to do to access what they want to do? Yeah,
I think if you're listening to podcasts and your growth development, like listening to this podcast, you're already 90% of the way there because you understand that who we are at 18 is not who we're going to be for the rest of our lives. But a lot of people who don't have a growth mindset and are not professionally development oriented and are not listening to podcasts, they're watching the same TV shows, listening to the same media, having the same job over and over again. They sign up for a certain something in their 20s. And they think this is the way the rest of their life is going to be. I mean, I know this in my husband's and my relationship. He was all in on being the breadwinner and me being the stay-at-home mom. We were willing to sacrifice for that. We were 100% in alignment. Then I started all these little side hustles on the side, and I was bringing in the money for the vacations, and I paid for the adoptions and anything extra. My money always went to anything extra. Also, totally on board for that. That all ran inside the household. And then as Organized 365 grew and we started manufacturing products and we needed to have a warehouse, and I started hiring people to work in the warehouse, I realized during COVID, hey, I don't have to be in this house. Like I actually own the company and I have a full office. Like I'm in the office that I had. I was like, I could go to the office. Yeah. But I'd always worked from home. Even though I was running a multi-million-dollar business from home, I hadn't made the mental mindset shift that I actually didn't work at home anymore. And my children were actually grown. Well, in my husband's mind, he signed up for a stay-at-home mom. The children are grown. Like neither of us really thought about what happens when the children are grown. What does that look like? So I travel and I speak and I do these things. And he's like, I would like you to be home. I was like, there are no children at home. Like, this is what I want to do now. And he still struggles with that a little bit of like, I signed up for a stay-at-home wife. And she is now an entrepreneurial CEO. And that's that constant rebalancing of what do you think you signed up for and what is life now? And I remember my aunt said to me when I was in my late 20s, she said, marriage is all about changing together. You are going to change throughout your lifetime. As long as you're talking about it and changing together, not changing separately, you will remain married. And so I've been really conscious about that. If I said I wasn't going to travel anymore, my husband would be like, yes. And that's not going to be the case. It's not going to be the case.
That's so interesting. I think also too, I look back and I've changed because there's a partner that I think about in the past who I remember thinking at the time there was a chance that she was going to make more money than me. And I was sort of this traditional, and I remember thinking to myself sort of, it's upsetting to even admit this, but I was like, if she ends up making more money than me, I'm out of here. This is not what I signed up for. Right.
Right.
And now it's like, my partner is she's working her way right up and it's not a thought anymore, so I think you're right. You have to be able to change together. And I think there is sort of it's what you signed up for. You have to be able to change. I think that's so important. What does it mean to, what is making money mean to you? What is your role? What is traveling is obviously so important to you, right?
But it is so important. Thank you for noticing, Ryan.
Yeah, I just heard you say it 3 times, right? And I just think it's, that's one thing that I really have. I think if I changed it anyway, I really listen to what's important for people and then encourage them to do it more, right? And sometimes it is. It's like, it would be great if you were home more, but I see that this is, how happy this makes you. And so you need to do that. So I've completely gotten off track here.
Well, I think also then, you have to have your partner, what lights them up. Like you mentioned the client that you're working with that wanted time to explore their hobbies. That is really important. You must give people time to explore their hobbies like we do with children. Like you sign up children for all these different sporting things to figure out what's the thing that's going to stick. None of our kids are going to, one out of a gajillion is going to become a pro athlete. And yet we sign them up for everything to see what they like. So we feel like in adulthood, when we want to take $100 and sign up for whatever, it better be the one thing we really want to do. We better have already figured out that this is the one thing we really want to do. Because what if, oh my gosh, we spend $100 and we don't like that thing. We spend another $100, we don't like that thing. Well, that's data. That's what happens in business. Give us the permission to try. So I found some things that I love. I give my husband permission all the time. Go out with the guys, go to that game, go to the thing. Find what's lighting you up in your late 50s, not what lit you up in your 20s and 30s and that. It's okay to experiment with what you might like, and you might not like it in adulthood. That should be normal.
Yeah. Lisa, your work speaks directly to the lived female American experience. And this is something I felt like I was sort of avoiding this, but I did have some questions really centered around this that I wanted to get into. And I wonder, in your experience, what are women carrying mentally and emotionally that rarely gets named clearly enough?
Okay, so thank you for asking this question, and I'm going to answer it a little differently than you hear in the normal media. So in normal media, you hear about the invisible load that women are carrying. They definitely do. Science has shown it. It is a fact. It is separate from the laundry, the dishes, and the food preparation. That's very visible. This is invisible work that women carry. I label this household management and the management of running the household. Laundry, dishes and meal prep and cleaning, that is housework. Academia doesn't separate the two. They call all of it housework. Okay, that's important. Secondly, the population with which all of the studies, or I would say almost all of the studies that are done in academia, are married couples with children. So you and your partner and your kids, you would be considered in the population that's being studied. Everyone I'm in relationship would not be. So my husband and I, our kids are not under the age of 18. We aren't in the study. My daughter, who's a single mom with 2 kids, not in the study. My son living on his own, not in the study. My daughter never married. My sister never married, not in the study. My mother-in-law and my mother, who are widowed, not in the study. So only 17.9% of the U.S. population right now is married with children under the age of 18. So more than 80% of America is not being studied in housework studies. And that housework is housework and household management. The invisible family load is household management. Every single family has household management, paying the bills, making sure the calendars are up to date, planning for holidays. All of those things are the invisible family management. This invisible family management often rests on the female head of household, and it's an invisible load she carries. Now, it's an invisible load that most of us want to carry. So you hear the media narrative that there should be equal division of all of this load and that the male partner should know as much as the female partner does. And mostly we're talking about in married couples with children. Women are overloaded. They're just overloaded in what they're doing. By the time they get to their late 30s, all women are overloaded with children or without, because the complexities of their own personal goals and their family's goals and their parents and their siblings that need help also all collide, and there's more than they can do. It is at that point where women go, help, I'm drowning, I need help. But she has been doing so much as the CEO of the household that she can't pull out one or two things that she can give to her partner easily for them to relieve that load, because she's just been doing it. Like, imagine being a business owner. I've been running this business for 14 years. I can't just hire someone tomorrow and be like, take this, take marketing off my plate. You can't do it. There's way too much nuance in it. And so she's frustrated that she can't articulate what she needs. And for crying out loud, you've been here the whole time. How do you not know what I've been doing inside of my head? Well, you don't. You don't know what she's been doing inside of her head. My dissertation is on working memory and perspective memory. And what happens during this working memory and perspective memory is that you encode what you're doing deeper, and you get in cognitive load theory, you get to the point where you create schemas. So a professional is someone who knows more about a topic than another person. So the female head of household knows more about running the household than anyone else in the household. And she's created all these schemas in her deeper memory, not her working memory, so she can just do things without thinking about them. And now she's got to think about them in order to articulate them, to have someone else help her do them. It's just easier to do it herself.
Yeah.
And because it's just easier to do it herself, then she just gets frustrated because why can't I offload these tasks? If you've been here in the household with me the whole time and watched me do this, how do you not know what I'm doing? Well, no one knows because it's been in your head. That's why it needs to be cognitively offloaded into a Sunday basket or something else for you to think. Just like in business, you would create an SOP and a job description and hire for that and train and onboard. That's what you need to do as a female head of household. If you really truly need someone to do the work you've been doing, you need to go through all the processes you would in business to hire someone to literally hire for free, someone to do the work you've been doing for free.
Yeah.
It's not just a turning a switch or figure it out. That's causing a lot of divorce, not a lot of solutions.
Yeah. So that is kind of like, so the solution really is something like, as you said, externalizing this executive function, right? Which is the systems that have become schemas and are just kind of really easy for you to do. So how does like the Sunday basket support something like this?
Okay, so how the Sunday basket supports this is it externalizes what the woman does in her brain all the time and just gives little visual reminders. So you've got a bill slash pocket and it's got everything related to the bills in it. And then on the back, I put like all the loans that we have. So I know when we're going to pay off the loans. So a lot of women will say once they create the Sunday basket and they create the binders instead of a file cabinet, their biggest win of being organized is when they could be at the baseball game or off with their sister or going to Pilates or whatever, and they get the call from the husband and he says, where is the blah, blah, blah? And she says, it's in this binder or in this slash pocket, go get it. He finds it and they're done, because everything that happened before that was, where is the blah, blah, blah? She knows where it is, but can't articulate where it is, turns the car around, doesn't go to Pilates, doesn't go wherever, comes home, finds the paper that is an emergency, hands it to them, because we become Google. The female head of household is the Google of the household. Hey, mom, where is this? Hey, honey, where is this? Okay, I'll go find it. I'll go get it. And until she has a system that she can rely on, she can't direct anybody else to get the information. She is the bottleneck.
Yeah. It's funny. The headline to me in this is that this isn't, it's organization is what you help people do, really. But really, it is the phrase that you came up with, which, as you can tell, I hope, Lisa, it resonates with me, is this, that's what systems are, is this externalization of that. And so you're helping people sort of create space, especially women, to do that. And I love that because you've also used an analogy to business or entrepreneur over and over again. You're like, it's no different. She's the CEO of the household. So shouldn't it be ran the same way? And it seems kind of obvious when you put it that way. Yeah.
68% of US GDP is household spending. Women make up the majority of the spending in the United States. And your P&L for your household is your tax return. So however much money comes into that household, however many different income streams you have, whatever that total amount is, you tell the IRS that you made last year and then you're going to pay taxes on, that is the size business that the female head of household is running.
So
it's a business.
So what becomes possible in a woman's life when she stops treating organization as sort of a personal failure and starts seeing it as sort of a design issue?
I think when you really truly understand, number one, that you can get organized. Everyone believes, 87% of Americans believe organization is a learnable skill. And yet very few Americans will say, yeah, I feel organized in every area. when you really put all of your effort into setting up the proper systems and designing your household environment for the phase of life you're in right now, you eliminate so much weekly time looking for things, thinking about things, having that mental, oh, this isn't finished in the back of your mind, that it increases so much capacity that you can really dive into this phase of life. So Ryan, your kids are 3. So you're just getting out of that baby phase. I don't know if you guys are thinking about more kids or not. You get all that baby stuff hanging on. When they enter all day school at kindergarten or first grade, you are going to be able to really move solidly into no diapers, no pack and plays, sippy cups, none of that. You'll be able to go on an airplane. It won't be a really big deal. And you will feel so much lighter. At that point, when your kids are 5, when your youngest kids are 5, you should do a total overhaul of your household and really create a playroom and really design their bedroom or bedrooms so that they have the toys that are working for them, and go through your storage room and get rid of anything that you don't need if you're not going to be having more children, stuff like that, and level up your house for the kids being between 5 and 11 or 12. Then again, at 11 and 12, you do the whole same thing. Now you've got kids that are going into middle school, high school. You're really preparing future adults. And then again, when they leave for college. So these different time frames, what I found when I organize houses in Cincinnati is we all have the same house. Maybe it's a ranch or it's a 2-story, but we all have there's not a big difference in houses in Cincinnati. It's kind of hysterical. But how the houses function are different. I've lived in my house for 30 years. Didn't have kids, had kids. Now my daughter and her kids live there. The house changes, how we function in the house changes, but the house doesn't change. If you match the house to the phase of life you're in, you eliminate so much rework and, you just eliminate a lot of work.
So I want to talk about paper systems and sort of the hidden weight of life. And I know you did research into the weight of paper into the American home, and it was fascinating what I found there. But what does paper represent psychologically beyond the clutter itself?
Yeah. So for a long time, you remember that period where we were going to be paperless?
Yeah.
Everybody's like, we're going to be paperless. And now everybody's like, where do I get a paper planner again? So there was a period of time, and that's when I wrote the book, was when everybody thought we would be paperless. And they were like, this is really a dumb book. I'm like, it's not a dumb book. So we don't have a ton of paper like we did in the 80s, but we do have a significant amount of paper. And the paper that we have is very important because we need it in emergency situations. So you don't need paper all the time, but you do need paper in emergency situations. And there are a couple of things that paper does. If you have a digital system, a lot of people are very digital. That is great for personal organization, but digital personal organization doesn't translate to another person unless you give them the password and keep it updated, and most people don't. Paper is real easy. Here's a paper. I'm going to give it to you, Ryan. You're going to read it. You're going to hand it to the next person. Paper is easily translatable. The other thing is that paper is so powerful. You can say something to a doctor or say something to a school teacher about something, and they're like, yeah. And then you produce a test result on paper and you hand them the paper and they're like, oh, and it says exactly what you just verbally said, but they didn't listen to you at all. But then they see the paper and all of a sudden they're like, oh, well, what you said now has weight. It gives weight to what you say. The other thing paper does is it takes the emotion out of it. So my kids had a lot of complex diagnoses when they were kids. And so we went to all the different specialists in Cincinnati. And I realized that every time we went to a new doctor, I was reiterating all of their, you normally do a highlight reel. I was doing the worst highlights of my kids for every new doctor to make sure we could get whatever services that we needed. And I was like, this can't be good for the kid. So I wrote it all down on a piece of paper. And then every new doctor I went to, I handed them a 2-page piece of paper and they read it. And when they were done reading it, they said, okay, I have 3 more clarifying questions. It stopped me telling the whole story, them going back and forth, me going, oh, wait, but I forgot this one critical thing. And really quickly, we got to much better diagnoses, much better treatments, and a lot less conversation in front of my children. The same thing would be really helpful if you're caring for parents, making some kind of a list like that, handing it to somebody instead of saying these things about your parent, making them feel younger than they are, or, getting riled up, and then you have a conversation on the way home because of what you said in front of the doctor, it's information. Paper transfers information from one person to the other in an organized way, in an authoritative way, without creating a lot of emotion.
Yeah, I'm trying to think about, because I've tried digitizing everything, and then I've gone back to paper, and I guess I've got some hybrid now. But handing a doctor, like you said, a piece of paper that has 2-page. Here's what's going on. Here's the notes. Let me know the questions you have. That seems like the doctor's far more likely to read that than if you're like, the email I sent you yesterday, did you read that first?
No.
That's a whole different thing. Help me. How's that different?
So it's different because doctors don't have enough time Just like you don't have enough time. You have to remember when you go see teachers, doctors, whatever, they're humans just like you. None of us have enough time. And they only have this allotted time. And there are a lot of things that could be going on. And there's a lot of information, like when you really sit down planning and you think through, what do you really want a doctor to know? What is the most salient information? What medications have you tried, not tried? What have been the reactions? When did this originally start? It makes you get clearer. Writing always makes you get clearer in your message. And then you go back through and you eliminate, no, this isn't really information a doctor needs to know. Here's just the facts. Doctors love it. They love when people come in with letters. They love when people come in with binders. I originally thought they'd think, ooh, I'm trying to do their job. I'm trying to show that I'm smarter than they are. Absolutely not. A doctor's goal is to see all the symptoms that they can and figure out what the course of action is to help you get well. And the more information you can give them, the better they could do their job. So they love it. They don't see it as you overstepping your bounds in any way. They see you as a collaborative partner.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, I could see, like, if I put myself in the doctor's shoes, I think I would like that. It's more because I know, I was a leader in corporate America, and you're listening and you're like, and people they're not exactly great at getting to the point, right?
No,
so it's like,
they're not.
Okay. So are you saying this? And reading it's so much easier to get to. And so that's sort of the power of paper. But when people are like, let's talk about the delay of dealing with the paper, sort of the organization part of it. What are they delaying emotionally when it comes to this paper issue?
Well, number one, that there's not enough money. That's the number one reason people are delaying is that there's not enough money or there's not enough knowledge. So the two kinds of paper I personally delay all the time is anything financial related, especially like investments. My husband does the investments. Thank goodness he's good at it. And medical, like for 7 years, more than 50% of our take home pay went to medical expenses. And that is the number one reason that people in America file bankruptcy is medical expenses.
Yeah.
So you don't understand, like, why didn't they cover it? What is this insurance thing? How do you match it up? It's going to be a phone call. Now they're calling that. It's just like, it's overwhelming. When you deal with your parents and you notice they've stopped opening the mail, that is the telltale sign that they've either run out of money or they are really in a cognitive decline and they need intervention. I saw it in so many households and I saw it in my own father. Like towards the end of life, people just stop opening the mail because they can't process it anymore. It's just so much to do. The problem is when you do step in as power of healthcare, power of attorney, and you go for the information to try to support your parents, your grandparents, your spouse, whatever, it's really hard to find that information because number one, it's not in the file cabinet. My dad had golf scores and car catalogs in his file cabinet. Fabulous. He had a computer. I never was able to log into it. I don't even know what would be on there if I could have found it. The only way I was able to piece together his finances was I had access to the bank account, and then I used power of attorney to get all of his credit cards, and then I could go through and see what were all the recurring charges and all of that. But when you ultimately have to settle someone's estate, which my husband and I will probably settle 8, is what we figured out. We are the executor on 8 different estates. Once you do one, you realize this is like Mad Libs for adults. Like you have to go through and you have to find all these things from their history and then you have to cancel all these things. It's a lot of work. So our binder not only gives you places to put all that financial information, but it comes with a workbook of all the things you're going to need to know before you go to the estate lawyer, before you go to the court, all of those things. It's not legal advice, but it's all the paper and all of the information you need in order to make decisions. I cobbled one together before I went to my dad's lawyer. And she said, you just saved yourself at least $2,000 with this simple binder. And I hadn't even really perfected it yet. So I worked with a couple other friends who also had settled estates, and I've run it by tax attorneys and stuff like that. And they're like, wow, this is all the information you need when you come to us. So yeah, you need to go be a detective. And a lot of times, Ryan, this ends up being the woman because men die younger than women. So the women are the ones settling the estate. And there is research to show that this invisible burden of settling your spouse's estate and then caring for yourself as you're older is really, really hard for women as they age.
Yeah. So now you're talking about, I mean, you mentioned investing is sort of something you've delegated to your husband, but you're talking
100%.
Accounting now. You're like, you've been an accountant for like sort of, that's what's really involved in this. I can't help but think about, what my partner is dealing with, something sort of related to that. And she's an accountant and she'll tell me all these things. And I think that she would really resonate with the Mad Libs for adults thing. It's like, I can't figure out what's going on here. And you've got to sort of fill in the blanks because you can't even ask them. And they're like, I don't know. They don't know.
Because our households are businesses, Ryan. I don't know how else I could say this. Like, female household head, you're a CEO, but yeah, you're the COO for operations, you're the CFO for financial, then you're handling multiple estates. So one of the great things about the Sunday basket is, I have a Sunday basket for my husband and I, but I also have a Sunday basket for my daughter and her kids. So I have 2 at our household. So I'm running both households on the same system. Then when I had to handle my dad's household, we just added another Sunday basket. So now you've got 3 Sunday baskets sitting on the kitchen counter, and you're going managing daughter's household, managing self household, managing dad's household, all running on the same system. It's like running multiple companies all running on EOS. Like they're all running on the same system because you've established a system. Otherwise, what people do is, okay, this is how I run my household, then I'll support my daughter and how she's cobbling together hers. Okay, I'm going to run my mother-in-law's based on the random way she runs hers because everybody made their own system. You're systematizing all of the households on the same system so that you can oversee and manage multiple households. And women, they just take on all these other households throughout their lifetime, but on different operating systems. They all need to be on the same operating system.
Yeah. So I want to shift the conversation a little bit here, just to this idea of productivity and there's a market out there for sort of optimization and productivity. And do you think the productivity world has oversold optimization and undersupported sort of actual human life?
Fascinating, because I definitely am overly productive. I think about this often because I have a podcast episode coming out where I, in excruciating detail, tell you 10 different lenses I look through to plan my week. And as I'm recording this, I'm like, you are weird. I'm so weird. So yes, I do think that we can elevate productivity almost to a god, or we're trying to get it not lose any second. So I agree with you on one point. But my other point is I'm running a multi-million-dollar company as a CEO. I'm traveling. I'm investing in my marriage. I spend 15 to 20 weeks with my grandchildren, 25 hours a week to get a PhD in 3 years. Can't do any of that if you're not productive, if you're not organized, if you don't take a lot of time planning. So every minute you spend planning saves you 5 to 10 in execution. So an hour of planning saves you 5 to 10 hours a week. So yeah, I probably plan 5 hours a week. And does that save me anywhere from 25 to 40 hours a week? Probably. If I didn't plan the way I did, there's no way I could have gotten a PhD. But also I spend a lot of time with my grandkids, a lot of time.
Yeah.
So I guess
it's interesting because I think what I hear in what you said there is that there's a well thought out meaning to everything that you're doing. I mean,
yes,
you're not just well, I guess I'll get another degree. Right. I mean, it's, by the way, what would your PhD, is it psychology or is
applied psychology?
Applied psychology. Okay. And so, I mean, you didn't even mention that. That's sort of like the headline. Everybody's like, well, what's your degree in? You're just talking about what you're actually studying, so there's a purpose behind all that. And I think that's interesting because I think some people, they're not clear on that. So they just want more productivity. Mm-hmm. It just reminds me of, when I was 40, I met with a coach and sort of got introduced to the coaching world. And I was like, I want to be more productive. And he's like, okay, great. Why? Yeah, and I was like, so I can get more done. Okay. And what will that do? And I thought to myself, yeah, what will it do? I think basically I thought about it just like I would be, I'd sort of improve at my job, but it did question where it inevitably got me was, where am I spending my time doing and what am I building towards? Because I have this memory that's so vivid in my mind is that, I started my corporate career in my and I remember I saw this guy running as I was driving to work and I'm all angry. I'm tired. I stayed up too late and, had too many glasses of wine the night before. And I'm like, that guy's lucky. He must be rich. He's running. He gets to run. I like running, but I don't have time to run. It just was like,
yeah.
And I look back, I'm like, who was that guy? I just was not, there was no meaning. I was just like, well, I'd be more productive. And so I don't know. What do you see there?
Yeah. So as you're mentioning that, I'm thinking about, yes, I am very purposeful. We still watch a ridiculous amount of TV too, because that's what my husband likes to do.
Do you sleep?
So I'll do jigsaw puzzles. I do sleep. I sleep 9 hours a night. It's crazy. I don't waste any time because I love, I'm obviously high energy. And also in my 40s, I went from having 6 hours of energy a day to I can have a 14-hour day now. Changed my diet, changed a lot of things in order to have more energy so that I don't like to waste time. So I like to be super productive so I could do multiple things at the same time. Like you said, I will find the things that I can eliminate in order to have more time. And I think that people listening to podcasts like this, I just want to say, okay, hustle culture is dead. It's okay to have 3 big goals at the same time and actually achieve them. We are weird. It's okay. We are where work comes from. I always walk around the office going, I'm where work comes from. If I'm not weird like this, you don't have a job. So I think this is good. Not everybody's wired this way. My husband needs a lot more downtime. And I think that's okay too. Like, not everybody has to be the same. I don't want to be productive for productivity's sake, but I do want to be productive in order to achieve some of these big goals, because I do have really big goals.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, well said. Well said. I think sometimes I feel like that too, like where work comes from. Lisa, you give me a lot of words for experiences that I have. Is that there is that experience of like, this is where work comes from. And sometimes I have felt guilt before, be like, I'm creating a lot of work for people.
That's right.
They're making money, so I guess that's good. It's interesting, and I think that is. I think back now, I'm like, wow, I get more done in one day now than I used to get done in 1 week 10 years ago.
Right.
And I remember 10 years ago thinking, I want to start a podcast, and now I'll record 2 podcast episodes, meet with 3 clients, have different business calls and meetings throughout the day. And I'm still spending a significant amount of time with 2 3-year-old boys out here. Yeah. And, talking to my partner about the day, and then we'll watch our show at night. It's pretty wild. And but all those things are sort of, I got to a point where I had to think out what the meaning was about it. What was I doing? Was I just trying to be more productive because you're supposed to do more, sort of this hustle culture idea.
I think that's a human element. And that's what I was going to mention that I forgot in the last part. I see that people today specifically trying to get more productive for productivity. In the past, it was like reorganize your to-do list and all these productivity things. What I'm noticing happening right now, be interested to see if you are also, is this push towards AI. I haven't really used AI very much at all because I don't get it. And I've got plenty of other things I'm doing, obviously. But as I start to tiptoe into it, or I have contractors who have worked for me in the past start to incorporate AI, the product that they give me is crap. And I'm like, where's the work that you used to do? They're like, oh, it's so much better. I'm using AI. I'm like, this is unusable. AI isn't quite there yet. And AI will never replace human innovation and creativity, in my opinion. Yeah. So I think as we've had productivity hacks that we've put into our lives, if you're younger, if you're in your 20s, early 30s, okay, you don't have the lived experience you and I have, and you've always been tech, and now you see AI and you're moving quickly into AI, and you don't have all the structures we had in the 90s, 2000s, and all of that. I think AI is a big distraction. I think it's coming. I think it's essential. I think it's going to be a thing. Yeah. But I think as far as productivity hacks and being able to ask ChatGPT, I was talking to my friend the other day. She's older than me. And she's like, so I was arguing with ChatGPT yesterday. And I was like, of course you were. You were arguing with ChatGPT. She's like, yeah, because I asked ChatGPT this thing about Catholicism. And then they gave the answer. And she goes, you're wrong. She's like, do more research because you're wrong. Because she was right and it was wrong. And like, she trained the ChatGPT. And I was like, that's how you should be using ChatGPT. This productivity, we're kind of like, what's the easy button to get through my work? Maybe AI could solve this for me. In menu planning, it's game on, like use it. But as far as the thing that makes you uniquely you, or really thinking through your long-term strategic plans, having it give you questions maybe, but don't outsource your productivity to an AI just yet. Really think about, why are you doing what are you doing? It all comes down to, why are you doing what are you doing? And then what is the most efficient and fast way to do that? Yes. But not just what's the most efficient and fast way to do it, not thinking first about why you're doing what you're doing and what the outcome is supposed to be.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, so I am very interested in AI, but I sort of was like, okay, well, maybe it could help, like, everybody's like, it's a writing tool. It's like somebody gave this analogy. They said, oh, it's like an abacus for writing. And I was like, oh, I found that in my experience not to be true. And I think where I've sort of landed on that is, I think that in the long run, I think there'll be some disruptions and it'll be kind of rough here for a bit. Probably. I don't know much about that, but I think really it's going to highlight the importance of sort of being human, being authentic. I think that's really going to be that's actually a positive thing will come about it. But I do think, there are some things like, for example, this podcast software that I use, instead of me having to go in and sort of mess with the soundboard to make the vocals sound good, it's called Magic Audio, and I'll hit that button and it'll make you sound like you have $1,000 mic in front of you. I think that's where that's where it's useful for me. And of course, there's also an argument out there that there's a sound engineer who knows how to do all that stuff and has spent their whole life doing it. And now it's sort of outsourced to AI. So it is something that I definitely do not use it for writing anymore, because you can just, I don't know what it is, you can just tell. And so sometimes I might partner with it, but it's like, that doesn't sound like me. That's not, you can just tell, and then there's the whole M- thing.
Which I have always used. Now I'm like, dang it. I use the ... I can't, grammar. I don't know grammar. Yeah. I love blogging because every single sentence is its own paragraph because you want it to be able to be readable. I'm like, what do you mean I have to go back to paragraphs? I don't remember how to do paragraphs. I use the M- all the time. Now I'm like, now I can't use my own thing because it's an AI tell. It's so annoying.
Yeah. Well, I think because it's an AI tell, it'll probably go away pretty soon. I mean,
good, because I'd like it back. Thank you.
And then, and you can just keep using it. So I wanted to talk about your podcast. After you've been doing it for 11 years, and then you've got 25 million downloads. What truth about Overwhelm have you come to believe more strongly now than when you started?
So I think what you said numerous times was interesting. You said, wow, you're putting voice to what I've already said. You said that numerous times. And that is what my audience says. They said, I've never thought about it the way you think about things, Lisa, or that is what was in my brain, but I didn't know how to articulate it. Like I articulate for women the overwhelm that they feel and thoughts they've had about their home life that they cannot articulate for themselves. I would say that's the biggest thing. Being able to articulate the overwhelm, make it visible, organize it, give solutions and systems and structure to households that are translatable between family households and multiple households you have to run. That bringing that kindergarten simple organization structure that everyone can understand, that's color coded and cute. Yeah, I think that's it. Just being able to, yes, it's heavy. What you are doing is heavy. Like you're running the weight of the American economy. Like your job is extremely significant, even though it is technically unpaid. But let's bring and elevate it to the level of the business owner that you are and provide you some simple systems and supports to do your job well. And also delegate it to the machines around you. Just don't do it at all. Outsource it, not outsource it to people, but in business, you would not do the amount of busy work we do in households because it's not profitable. Mm-hmm. Even though you're not being paid, we also should not do it in housework. So how do you really look at everything you're doing going, in this season, it's really not worth doing that task at all. And so I'm going to proactively procrastinate that task, maybe indefinitely, because in our household, it doesn't matter. Even though in my household of origin, it was really important.
Yeah. So as the founder and CEO of Organize 365, you had to sort of organize internally, if at all, to be the leader that you needed to be.
Ideas. So the biggest thing is, and all entrepreneurs will relate with this, like we have a million ideas. We want them all implemented instantaneously, and we think it doesn't take any time to make them real. So I burned through a lot of team members and really sabotaged my success a lot, between moving from the in-home professional organizing into an online company. I just thought that, you could just create things. And now I realize 1 to 3 goals per quarter is really all we can do. And we do those and execute those. And so doing bigger goals, less goals has been successful. However, I capture all of my ideas. So I've had an idea for a TV show for 13 years now, and everything I have are in Slash Pockets. And so every time I have an idea for it, I'll put it in there. I have some scripts, they're in there. Someday I may or may not have one, but when I do, all of my ideas are already captured. So being able to have all the ideas I want to have, capture them all, but only executing on a few per quarter.
Yeah. This is almost like I hear restraints and again, a really thoughtful plan, some of that. I know I'm with you on the idea thing. It's like, you can't do everything. And then I think it just, as far as the market goes, it just can confuse people really quickly.
Right.
Because something that you draw a straight line to, it takes a lot of communication to get some people there. So you've got a new book coming out. Okay. Escaping Quicksand. So tell me about where this idea for this book came from and what somebody who this book is for.
So this book really is for women, and it's for women who are feeling very overwhelmed and they're not really sure how to get out from being overwhelmed. Now, obviously, organizing your house, all of those things will solve that problem. Kind of, but there are mental mindset shifts that you need to make, because you can organize your house over and over and over again, and then you feel like you're not really there. You didn't really get all the way organized. So in hindsight, I looked back in my 40s. I was like, what were the mental mindset shifts that I made from being reactive, overwhelmed, depressed, overweight in my 40s to being positive, proactive, and productive in my 50s. And so these are the 10 mental mindset shifts I made in my 40s, like establishing a simple morning and evening routine. We've heard about this a million times. But when, your partner, two twins that are 3, it's really hard to be like, okay, I need to wash their hair and wash my hair. I need to brush their teeth and brush my teeth. Like, you're doing for yourself everything that you are doing for your kids. And often what happens when you have those young kids is you're like, skip the shower today because there's just not enough time. And so do you skip the kids' shower? No, you skip your own. And so really, as a woman, thinking through, how did we give away all of our agency and all of ourself and really give of every piece of ourselves to our family and our community? And how do we slowly start to reinsert ourselves back in a healthy way and make good decisions about how we want to care for ourselves like we care for others?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a powerful message. It's a powerful message. And I think, I think the answer is kind of obvious here, but I want to get your thoughts on it. But where does this, like you said, there's sort of like a perception of time compression. It's like somebody's got to lose their shower here, so it's going to be me. But where really does the need come from for a book like Escaping Quicksand?
Because we only see the visual ways of how to solve our problem. Like, okay, well, I guess since I can't get the cleaning done, I'll hire a cleaning person, even if I don't have the money for that. Or, okay, so we aren't eating healthy food, so I'll create a menu plan. But it's this invisible load that is the one that is truly growing. The amount of meals you have hasn't changed over your lifetime. The amount of laundry really hasn't changed over your lifetime. It's the mental load that you're carrying, but you don't know how to reduce the mental load. So the way to reduce the mental load is to either figure out how to cognitively offload some of it to another adult, or say that you're not going to do it, or create these systems like the Sunday basket, like a good structured schedule. And slowly over time, what you do is you think like, okay, well, here we are at the end of the day again, and I didn't eat my protein and I didn't get a shower. Like, how am I going to solve this for tomorrow? And this book is like, well, okay, one way you could solve this for tomorrow is planning your food the day before, just like you would when you were in school. You would plan your schoolwork for the day before. Like, we take ourselves back to being that 4th grade student. What did we do that made us successful in 4th grade? Well, we laid out our clothes, we packed our lunch, we did how can you treat yourself more like your parent would have stewarded you as a child? That's self-care. When you're a child, when you are needing help as an elder, you get childcare or elder care. Self-care is you taking care of you like your parents used to take care of you. You prioritizing you as one of the members of your family. And as women, we often take ourselves off the list and stop doing this. And then we don't know how to undo it. Like, how do you undo that? Also, when you're overwhelmed and have too much to do.
Yeah. So what do you think is one invisible source of overwhelm for women that we should stop normalizing immediately?
Wow, that's a good question. Wow, just there's so many invisible works.
Mm-hmm.
I think just the idea that she's Google.
Yeah.
Every time you go say, hey, mom, or hey, honey, like, okay, how could you have found that information? And or could you be where that information is stored? I think a couple ways that typically naturally happens in married couples is men will take on the finances, men will take on the grocery shopping. So one visible, one invisible.
Yeah.
I didn't like it when my husband took over the finances, so I took him back. He balanced the checkbook to the penny and he's chasing me around like, where's this 13 cents? Where's this 13 cents? I'm like, honey, I lose $600 regularly and it shows back up as 1,000. I cannot find 13 cents. So I just took it back. He's like, yeah, you won't let me do the finances. I was like, you're right, I won't.
So if someone is listening feels sort of buried by, the weight of home, of paper, mental clutter, where would you tell them to begin without turning it into sort of another impossible and insurmountable project?
I always tell people to start with the Sunday basket, and it does take, 6 weeks to 2 months to really get it established. But what the Sunday basket does is it really makes visible all of these invisible tasks that you're doing and really starts to create those SOPs for yourself. And then if you want to outsource them or not, that is kind of a heavy lift because it's 2 months. But, I'm just living a good adult life is not simple. So Could I give you a simpler answer? Not really. Like, that is the simplest one. Then it's, going through all of your information management. Then it's going through your house. I like to say it takes anywhere from 18 months to 3 years to get all the way through all the organized 365 products and really create this solid system. And I know that seems like too long and that's not good marketing, but it's true. And people do it all the time. And then once they do it, it's done. Like 3 years ago, if you'd have started, you'd already be done. Like, can you imagine if your whole house was organized, all your information was organized, and you had an operating system? Like, you wouldn't say in business 3 years was too long to do that. And yet it definitely takes 3 to 5 years in business to establish the same thing.
Yeah. Yeah, I think, in a manner of speaking, what I hear you say, what I think you're offering is people, I think, instinctively know, they're like, life feels compressed, right? It's all these invisible things that you can't really, like I said, you were giving me words to experiences that I have. That in a way helps me sort of, put things in order. And I think what you're really offering people is, it's not like, hey, take this pill and your life's going to be better. It's not like something like that. But I think people instinctively know they've got to create space in their life for the system, for something to help sort of catalyze everything. And I think that's really what you're offering.
Yeah, it's going from reactive to proactive. So like, you wouldn't expect like, oh, I'm going to eat healthy for a week, so I'm going to lose 20 pounds. Like, it's okay, how am I going to do this? What's this going to look like? How am I going to really change? Same with getting out of debt. You wouldn't go from $20,000 in debt to like, tomorrow it's paid off. No, how am I going to change my habits? Like, same thing with organizing.
Yeah. So, Lisa, we've talked about a lot of different things. I really appreciate you. I just want to leave you with the last word. First of all, where can people find you online, and how can people connect with you if they're interested in learning more?
Yeah, so I'm Organized 365 everywhere. Organized365.com, Organized 365 on Instagram. The podcast is called Organized 365. All of the products and services are on Organized365.com. There's a whole package where you can get all of these things and just jump in and be in the lifetime membership, or you could just start with the Sunday basket. My mission is to really create structures and systems that support the head of household, whether it's a male or female, whoever's running the household, and also to change the narrative of invisible work at home. Right now, in the media, we're talking about the invisible family load that is specific to mothers that are raising children and want their partners to be equal in that work. But really, 80% of the United States population is not included in that conversation. And there are many other genders and ages of adults that need support in that invisible family load. I want this to be an educational and a positive and a constructive conversation, and really giving you the tools that you need in order to manage your life, as opposed to trying to outsource it to someone else or create division amongst men and women.
Yeah. Well, I mean, it's something I think a lot of people need, especially in this age of overwhelm. Just the amount of information that we're taking in every day just sort of makes things a little cloudy. So, Lisa, it's been a great conversation. I've really enjoyed it. I can't believe you're a neighbor. You're doing powerful work, and I really appreciate.
Thanks, Ryan.
Listen, organization isn't really about having a perfect home. It's about freeing capacity. The capacity to think, the capacity to plan, capacity to lead your household instead of constantly reacting to it. Capacity to do what you're genuinely gifted and created to do. Lisa gives language to something many people feel but struggle to name. That invisible work, it's real. The remembering is real. The paper is real. The planning is real. The household management is real. When all of that lives only in your head, it becomes heavy. And when it's externalized into a system, you get some of your mind back. This conversation is a reminder that getting organized is not about becoming someone else. It's about building a structure that supports the life you're actually living right now. Not the life you had 5 years ago, not the life you think you should be managing, the one you're in. I especially benefited from Lisa's discussion of externalizing the executive function. I see how I attempt to do that in many aspects of my life. So that was an example of getting words for an experience that I was having consistently. If this episode gave you language for your own overwhelm or your habits with executive function, subscribe to the Personal Success Podcast. You can do that here or wherever you're listening. And if you're a leader who's still performing, still showing up, but noticing that life or leadership feels heavier than it should, download the 7 Quiet Signals at ryanwattscoaching.com/quiet signals. It will help you recognize the subtle signs of internal friction before they become harder to ignore. Thanks for listening. I'll see you in the next episode.